Good morning, everyone. What I thought I'd do is hope everybody had a nice Christmas first. What I thought I'd do is, I guess you've seen the new ICU chart up in the staff room. I sent an email around and it's also been on Facebook as well. Thanks to everyone for their help and assistance and all their feedback with this. This is the version that we're going to go live with. Provisional launch date is for the 14th, week commencing 14th of January. So what I thought I'd do is I'd take this morning just to have a quick talk through and give you a thought process of exactly how the ICU chart works, how we can potentially fill it out, and then really explain each one of the sections in a little bit of depth. Obviously, Joe, Buzz and I will be around if you have any further questions, and we'll be coming around with formal teaching just so that you guys really are familiar with it. So if we start at the top, and what you can see now is that we've got boxes for ventilatory settings and arterial blood gases. Arterial blood gas is nice and clearly displayed, and ventilatory settings and observations. If we have a closer look at the ventilatory settings, what you can see is how I filled it out is that I've made a note of the ventilatory settings as soon as I've taken over, and then any subsequent changes I've initialed going forward. Now obviously on this section here, you're entirely up to you whether or not you want to write the same values all the time, but obviously for me, in just ease of use, I've just written any of the bits and initialed any of the changes that I've made. And then as you can see underneath, we've got ventilation obs, your observation values. We go further down, arterial blood gases now. Arterial blood gas is nice and clearly displayed. Arterial blood gas is what we've got. Again, if you notice, we've actually got two separate boxes for glucose and blood sugar. Glucose from the OBG machine, and blood sugar obviously from the blood sugar testing that we're doing. What we're doing here is, as you can go further down, you can see we've got the cardiovascular observations. Nothing really exciting to write home about on there. And on the CVS box underneath, we've got heart rhythm, ectopics, and MAP. I've kept MAP as a written value rather than a little dot because that's what you guys wanted, so we've made sure that's on there. We've got central nervous CNS on here, sedation score, okay, pain scoring, CAM ICU and GCS, and then pupillary response. As you can see through the day, we're doing hourly sedation score, and what we should see is kind of the story of your patient's sedation on here. You know, very, very sleepy, slightly awake, okay, a little bit agitated, and sleepy again. Okay, and that's ideally how we should record and keep a tally of what's going on. We've got pupillary response and GCS, CAM ICU as appropriate. Now this is the biggest change, and the one that I think will cause the most kind of concern or most kind of query. This is a combined fluid balance and dosage or intravenous infusion chart. I've combined the two really to give us a little bit more space, and also to free up the other side of the chart for other bits. So what you can see here is, obviously because it's a combined chart, that now means that I've got to get dosage and volume on the same chart. So the way that I've done it is that we have our volume at the top. So you can see with the noradrenaline, we've got a volume in mils per hour, and then we've got a dosage in micrograms per kilogram per minute underneath. Adrenaline, mils per hour, and the dosage underneath. Fentanyl, mils per hour, and the dosage underneath. Propofol, volume, and the dosage underneath. Insulin, heparin, vasopressin, etc. And as we go further down the chart, what you can actually see is that we've now got space: crystalloids, colloids, flush, enteral feeds, parenteral feeds, medication IV, and medication NG or oral. Now obviously what we'll be doing here is now we're going to be adding vertically, so down or up, rather than horizontally. Okay, now this could be quite a bit of a challenge. Obviously there's going to be a lot of numbers. It's relatively small in comparison to what we're used to, and it might make it a little bit difficult in deciding what you need to add and what you don't need to add. So to kind of combat that, what I've done is I've had a look on this chart at kind of doing it in two different colours. So as you can see, we've got a volume at the top, okay, and that's in black, and then we've got our dosage in red underneath. Now, just in my personal experience, I've got to say, actually having added all this up, it does make it a little bit easier in red, but I'm not telling you have to use two colour pens, because I'm not. Documentation ideally, you know, these days everyone says it should be in black, but I think we've got a good enough reason to explain why it's not. And then obviously, as you can see, As we go further down, I'll leave that decision up to you to decide whether or not you want to go black or red or another colour. As long as you're consistent and it's clearly readable, I don't really have an opinion. It's important that we do record both the volume and the dosage. Obviously, if we start to run out of space, then we need to look at utilising other areas of the chart, but I think there's enough space on here. There were 22 individual spaces combined between the two charts, and that's basically what we've got on here. It's just in a different version. So if we're adding vertically, okay, we're going down, what you can see is that we've got our cumulative hourly input, okay, and our cumulative running total at the bottom, now called, so running total now called cumulative input. As we go further down the chart, you can see that we've actually got our output, so urine, whatever, drains, hemofiltration. Most people are asking and say there's no hemo-obs on this anymore. That's right. Lorraine and I will be working on developing a separate hemo chart for hemofiltration observations to make sure that they're recorded hourly separately. They're probably going to go back on the back of the KGH chart. We just need to work that out. Okay, and then as you can see, we've got our cumulative balance at the bottom. If we go up here, we've got our blood results, okay, nice clearly displayed. And there's a little box at the bottom for the doctors to initial once they've seen it. Further down, endo ET tube. Further down still is this personal care box. Now this personal care box I know has been concerning people because it looks very complicated. But it's literally a tick box of ticking what we've done on that hour. So what intervention we've done on that hour. So that hour, have we checked the pressure areas? And if we have, what pressure areas are there? What have we checked? What do they look like? What have we actually done? So as you can see, the reposition code just literally means what position are they in. Back, left, back, right, back, left, back, right, left, back, right. Okay, and I think we're on the left there, yeah. And then I've ticked every area that I've seen, okay, and what I'm checking. If you have a look, I've even made space for little comments, written little comments on there, just to explain what I'm seeing, okay? And this can be used to support your real-time evaluation. So in your real-time evaluation, if you've got a problem, you can write C chart for details, or you could, pick up and provide more detail in your real-time evaluation. But this is just a quick reference for us so that we can say this is what we're going to do. We don't expect you to do every single one of these every hour. That's not achievable, it's not feasible. Going for 2 hourly turns may be a challenge with some patients depending on the acuity. But obviously we need a space to document what care we're providing and how we're providing it. So obviously when you're doing something, make sure that you record it here. And as you can see, what we've got, especially given that we've had a number of pressure sores in relation to SATS probe, and we've had some issues in relation to NG tubes, there's specific notice on here. The bit where it says consider repose boots, KeroPro, seal tape just means, what are you adding? Have you considered it? Does it need it? So as you can see, my heels have started to deteriorate, so I've put KeroPro heel on. If it was the nasal tube that started to deteriorate or another pressure area, I just make a little scribble in there, a little note to explain to myself what I'm doing. If we go further down to the bottom of the chart, as you can see, there's our normal checks, okay, very standard, and our daily checklist for when we take over duty. Okay, so ventilator modal alarms, FiO2, etc., etc. The big difference is that what we've got at the bottom here, okay, is a box that says infusion and prescription chart checked at handover, and that's checked and signed between the two nurses giving handover. So that's nurse on the night, or nurse on the early, whatever, okay, and the nurse is taking over them. And you go through the drug chart, and once you're happy that all the infusions and all the prescriptions are correct, you just sign the boxes there. The idea behind this is that we identify a lot of the medication errors. A lot of medication errors and datexes that we're seeing are due to people having forgot to sign boxes. There's no kind of harm, there's no terribleness, it's just that the boxes are sort of forgotten to have signed. And if you're checking them definitively as part of your handover process and signing for it, then you hopefully will kind of identify those little errors before they need to become datexes, and the nurse who was there can sign and say, oh yeah, no, I gave that, or no, I didn't give that because, and then document appropriately. So that's the idea of this little checkbox at the bottom. It's really important that we do sign these, and it will be expected for you to sign them. Okay, the new process will be definitively, when you're handing over, is to go through their drug chart individually with the staff nurse who's taken over from you and make sure that all your infusions and all your drug charts are correct, and hopefully it will allow us to pick up any calculation errors as well. The idea being, again, just to make it nice and simple. As we go back up to the top, what we've got is all the patient information, the body map. Okay, now I know the body map being on the front of the chart is a little bit contentious for some people because people are worried about what they'd see. I mean, I'm open to challenge about this. I don't think we'll keep it on the next revision of the chart. I think I'll replace it with something different because we've already got a body map in the care plan. I just don't think I realised that I doubled up. But yeah, I think this is something we can get rid of. But for the purpose of what we're doing, it provides a nice, clear pictorial reference for what's going on with the patient pressure areas. And finally, on the bottom is we've got the flat hug for the doctors. Okay, we've also got a nice, huge, big space for the daily plan. Okay, so lots and lots of room, so you can write and scribble any notes in there. And the important bit for us as well, which is a new change, is this box. So has your patient had a mental capacity assessment today? Okay, if they have, then record the date. So yes, they have, put today's date. If yes, then obviously if we're doing an MCA, we'll need to have a best interest assessment. Okay, and that needs to be completed on there. And this is a prompt box, really. And if we haven't had a mental capacity assessment, then why not? So in this case, the patient's ventilated and sedated. They can't possibly be having their mental capacity assessed, so I've just put it in there. No big deals. If they're GCS of 15, just put GCS 15, no, not required. Or if they're CAM ICU negative, whatever. If they are confused and disorientated, however, they'll probably need a mental capacity assessment. And what we should be doing in best practice is ensuring that our patients have a mental capacity assessment daily. Doesn't need to be a full kind of the MCA form, but it does need to happen more regularly than it does at the moment. Obviously, I appreciate that this will be a big change. I know this is going to be a bit of a struggle for some people, especially when we get back to the combined fluid balance. But as I said to you before, this is version 1 of however many versions it takes to get us right. I like this because I think in time we'll get used to it, and also it gives us the chance to genuinely track and see changes. So you can see I've increased my noradrenaline because my blood pressure fell. As you can see, my patient's propofol has been decreased because the blood pressure was down and the sedation score was low. As they've started to wake up, propofol's gone back up and the blood pressure's gone up. So we can start to see a narrative and the values of treatment. So anyway, that was the quick guide. If you have any questions, as always, please don't hesitate. Go and speak to Joe Buzz or I, and we'll try and answer them. But obviously, let's give it a go. Let's see what works, what doesn't, and we can always change it. All right, thanks very much.